Thanks for staying with us. You're watching Notepad with me, Ibrahim Sani. One thing that I realized is that we've never really talked about property, the idea of buying property, and whether or not it's a good time to actually get one. So today, we shall spend the entire episode discussing about whether or not we should look into the property market and whether or not 2019 is a good idea to buy one. And I don't dare discuss this by myself, and that's why I have with me Chris Tan from Chur Associates discussing this with me. But before we start into that, let's discuss a little bit about some of the controversies or the discussions that are currently going on. Very recently, a few months ago, the boss of The Edge and also the Edge Properties Berhad chairman, Datuk Tong Kui Ong, has introduced a new idea, which is Fund My Home. It's an equity style of ownership. We'll get Chris to discuss a little bit about that. But Datuk Tong did argue that Fund My Home is an alternative scheme that enables home owners and home ownerships for first-time home buyers. And it's not about giving free lunch or free, ownership to the people on the government's dime. So to discuss Fund My Home and whether or not it's a viable project, I have with me Chris Tan, the managing partner of Chur Associates. Chris, thanks for having us. The last time we spoke was not on a TV channel.
Right.
It was, many years ago on a radio station here in
Sure.
KL. And it's been quite a while since we have spoken to you. But Fund My Home, really, let's discuss a little bit about what it's all about.
Okay, I think, first of all, Fund My Home is actually effectively being launched by our Prime Minister 2 days right after our budget announcement back in November. So I think at that time, there was some excitement in the budget announcement in relation to ownership, in relation to also the fact that, we want to make 2019 the perfect and ideal year to do home ownership for first-time home buyer. So this Fund My Home seems to be an alternative being launched at that time that take on the hype of the budget announcement and so on, this new innovation. So this whole idea of Fund My Home, if I can put it very simple to you, is that it is just addressing the concern that we have currently on whether the 1090 model that we have, is it still sustainable?
Okay, I want to catch you on that one.
Sure.
So 1090 meaning 10% deposit, 90% banking loan. Just like buying most properties, be it car or home or whatever in Malaysia, the owners would acquire 100% of the asset by putting down cash 10% down and taking that 90% loan. Why do you say this is a broken concept?
Okay, let's put this way first. As long as we know property investment or the way that you want to invest and buy a property in Malaysia has always been this 1090 concept. So what it means is that it's very conservative and it's actually shielding us. In fact, from the subprime crisis of 2008, I would attribute to the fact that we have very conservative banking system in terms of funding property purchase. So that's why we cut down a lot of speculation. But when I said 1090 in this sense, you got it right there. It's always that when we talk about owning a property, it's always two things. Either you rent it, which means someone else you pay rent, or you buy it, then you start to pay installment. All right? There's no halfway. 0% ownership versus 100% ownership. So that's where we say 1090 is such a time-tested concept, but it's getting old and tired because it's not serving the nation, because now we have an issue. That's why Pakatan Harapan, when they come into the power, one of the manifesto is very clear. 1 million home within 10 years. Correct? 1 million home within 10 years. So effectively, you're looking about 100,000 of home within a year within this period, and it's aimed at first-time home buyer. So my question to you, do we have that much of supply? Number two is that, are we looking at the same model that is failing us in the past, or are we reviving it?
Okay.
So,
so Fund My Home wants to address that problem.
Sure.
How does Fund My Home solve that 10% down issue?
Okay. Fund My Home, in fact, as we speak, right, I think about 2 days ago or 1 day ago, they actually launched this thing called the deposit pool. I think you will have details on that. But I want to highlight very importantly, they are tweaking the structure. Okay, and we say 10%, 90%, but Fund My Home, effectively, what's been announced, effectively is a 20%, 80% kind of scheme. So I put it very different. A lot of people look at it as like 20% down, and then you need 80% of so-called bank financing or whatever financing you can get. Right?
And this is where the problem lies, because the criticism that has been receiving or been lobbying against Fund My Home project, against Datuk Kong, against The Edge, against Edge Prop, is that, okay, so we can't put down 10%, Now you're asking us to put down 20%. How absurd is that?
Okay, because let's put it this way, we're addressing another issue here. Think about it. There are people who can put down 10%, but they can't get the balance 90%. All right? There are people who can get higher deposit, but they cannot get the bank loan. This is where they're trying to address a gap. Let's put it this way, we're not here to question the success of this thing, whether you have massive coverage or everyone can benefit about it, but it will benefit those people who qualify in that sense. So what I'm trying to highlight is, for example, you have a street vendor with a cash business and all these things. For all intended purposes, they might have enough cash flow to pay the deposit. But when they go into the traditional, conventional bank, you know they have a problem.
Okay, let's talk. Yeah. Let's talk real money, right? So you buy a $500,000 ringgit home.
Sure.
And then it used to be we put a 10% down.
Yes.
That means 50,000 ringgit, and then you take a 450,000 ringgit loan.
Sure.
So now you're saying that some people, they might have more money in terms of deposit.
Right.
So they put 100,000 ringgit down for the deposit. Where are they going to get the rest of the 400,000? Okay,
I tell you some of the typical group of people that fall into this category. Like I said just now, we have those cash-rich retail vendors and hawkers, the kind of thing. That could be one, whereby when they walk into the bank, they don't get the credibility. Another potential category of this is, for example, someone who come from a okay family with some saving. So father, mother fund them, they're fresh graduate. They intend to start owning a house rather than paying rent. Think about it. So they probably can have a way still come up with the 10-20% in that sense, and then but they again not qualified to get the balance. So what I'm highlighting to you is that they're addressing this soft issue here, whereby the balance of 80% is now, for example, once the regulation and the guideline is out from the SC in really putting this as a proper crowdfunding, at this moment is still institutional. All right. So what we're highlighting to you is that then investor can come in a different format, whereby not only you earn interest, perhaps you also own the upside of the property. Or this done on the basis that obviously over time property will go up in prices. Yeah. So this addressed the need. So the person who initially on year one who cannot own it 100%, own 20%. Correct? So then at the end of year 5, they would have the capability and credibility to get a loan or get financing or even on their own to pay for the balance. Okay. And if they can't do the balance, that's not the worst case. You know why? Then the whole thing can go on the market again. Even the first 20% they have invested will also go up.
All right. We'll take a short break. When we come back, we'll discuss a little bit more about Fund My Home, whether or not it makes sense. For staying with us, you're watching Notepad with me, Ibrahim Sani. Today we discuss a lot of issues. One of them is Fund My Home and whether or not it makes sense. Chris, if it makes so much economical sense, why are people so against it? I mean, honestly, there seems to be a lot of, when we type Fund My Home in Google, there seems to be a lot more criticism than a lot more people saying that it makes sense.
I think it's the same as the new government, like it or not. They're trying a lot of new things, correct? So when you put anything to the start, when it's not tested and whatever, everyone have reservation. So I think it needs times. I think it's very important to note that, in this country where the basis is capitalism, we should celebrate choices. So when you have choices, like I said, let's even elevate this to another level, not just limit to Fund My Home, but that just happened to be the very first example that we got. But let's ask ourselves, I think at the end of the day, we are looking at if really our housing need is being addressed properly, do we really need to have a manifesto that said 1 million home in 10 years? That could be one, all right? And if really everyone can really own their home, then we don't even have this issue. So what I'm highlighting, I'm glad that the government of the day is addressing it head on, putting it like that. And in fact, I'm saying that 2019 is the year we will see more what we call new property model, right? So 1090 is one model, right? Yes, it's been serving us very well, but it's not actually enough to solve all the problem. Now, the problem with a lot of commentators in relation to Fund My Home, the way I look at it is that they're probably thinking that, hey, this is not going to happen, and it's not going to cover everyone. Which is true, I admit, it's not the case, right? But it will benefit those who qualify. That's very important. And I think it's also very important, it set the trend, okay? As you know, other than the Fund My Home thing, we have a lot more announcement in relation to the property ownership in Malaysia, especially first home buyer. So we have the stamp duty benefits being announced over and over the time by Minister LGE, right? And then we have also this thing called Dasar Rumah Negara being announced about a few weeks ago. And then a few days ago, we even have this Dasar Community Negara in that sense. So what we're highlighting to here is that there's a lot of policy being put in place where they're testing certain model. In fact, what I'm happy to see is that you can look at even the funding part, right? They're trying to test the bank to say that, hey, if you don't start to be innovative, I'm going to give you a lot more challenge. So I'm thinking in this sense, for example, property crowdfunding is what we call new investment model for property owner, because even the same for property investor for that matter, if they want to invest in property, they have to go through the same mechanism of that 1090 thing. So they cannot buy a fraction, but they have to buy everything, right?
When you say that all of these policies are in place, and particularly for first-time homeowners, there are also arguments that regulation is keeping up, trying to keep up with all these policies in place. You know, case in point, Fund My Home is still not being approved by the regulators. What do you think is actually stopping the regulators from saying, okay, it's good, let's go for it?
Okay, I think let's correct that a little bit. First of all, Fund My Home is a proper scheme at this moment, but it is not really so-called, because in the budget it was used as property crowdfunding, right? But property crowdfunding is not happening yet because we're still waiting for the guideline by SC, being the regulator. So according to the announcement, we are expecting the guideline by this quarter, which is a few weeks from now. If we cannot, we have to wait for the guideline. But in that sense, but it's still a proper scheme at this moment, because for all intent and purposes, we have the institutional investor already participating. Two we name is CIMB and Maybank, right? So what we're highlighting, I think it's important to see this through and whatnot is, really 2019, if you ask me, is it the perfect time to buy or whatnot? I can tell you 2019 is the perfect time to consider and go shopping for your first home, right? Because we have this thing called already the home ownership campaign starting already happening, and we have the massive one coming in March 1st to 3rd in KLCC, jointly organized by REDA as well as the Kementerian and all that. The aim is 10% discount, stamp duty exemption, right? You can't find a better reason to buy a property now.
Okay, let's focus on some of the, I don't know, sweets or handouts that can be given to the first-time homeowners.
Sure.
And this is market forces, if everybody wants to buy at one go, and 2019 is the year to buy, as you say, and all first-time homeowners say that this is the time, let's just draw our checkbooks and go to the market, wouldn't this in itself drive property prices up? Wouldn't that be one of the major concerns first-time homeowners should be looking out for? Property prices inflating to astronomical prices to a point where it's so artificially high, it just prohibits anyone from buying it.
Well, let's put it this way. The aim of the home ownership campaign, first and foremost, is to clear ready stock. We have a mismatch situation. I wouldn't say oversupply, because there's still people who want to buy. There are people still building, but it's just that it's not matching. So one of the things that they aim in terms of the home ownership campaign is, for all intent and purposes, dealing with the ready stock by the developers. And therefore, and it's actually looking at the property predominantly below 1 million. Kind of price range. Therefore, it's also aiming to benefit the entire Malaysia. You can see that, I can see that Sabah is already starting some of their home ownership campaign. Penang is starting, and then we have a massive one in KLCC, like I said. So what I'm trying to highlight is that it is important if you want to do some saving and get some discount, because there is a promise of 10% discount, detail of which will be unveiled, but as is within the campaign. But I say that doesn't mean that when we all float in at this moment, the prices will drive up again, right? Because at this moment, we're looking at clearance.
We'll take a short break. When we come back, we'll discuss all the clearance sale that Chris is talking about. Don't go anywhere. I have with me Chris Tan, Managing Partner of Chur Associates. He claims that 2019 is the year that we should really consider shopping for homes, particularly for first-time homeowners. Why is that, Chris?
I put it very simple. Already many policies already in place being announced and is put into effect. Especially you can consider, first of all, that is this aim to really make sure that everyone can deliver this 100,000 supply. Remember we said about 1 million in 10 years? I keep saying that simply because it's actually quite a tall order. Think about it. I'm not sure how many people actually clear how much ready stock we come to the market every year. So every year is about 160,000, 150,000, below 200,000 kind of thing. So if you're asking for 100,000 affordable homes, then you're effectively looking at half or more than half of the supply. So I'm saying to you is that, and of course, there are also a carry forward supply that we want to do. So this home ownership campaign, to me, is very simple. I'm urging all the aspiring first-time homeowner, let's put it this way, even you can't afford it, even you don't think you can make it, go and try the shopping. Assess yourself first, whether you qualify for any loan, how much do you need, exactly what it is, because under the current package, there's many benefits. Like I said, stamp duty, right, could be one, right? And also there's motivation for even the seller to sell, because there's also a delay slightly for the RPGT to take effect slightly later with the higher rate. So again, these are all good factors, good circumstances that allow transaction.
Let's talk about areas, right? Do you think that, the type of homes, the places where it's at, Kuala Lumpur, Penang, Johor Bahru, big towns, Kota Kinabalu, or is there an argument for buying slightly outside areas other than the big towns? What's the story there?
I think at the end of the day is about affordability and also the travelling time and also where you work. All right, we tend to want to say the proximity to where you work and also the readiness of public transportation. So I think at the end of the day, nobody will give you a perfect product, right? Because even today they're talking about dual income, husband work, wife also work at the same time. So you could be closer to the husband, but then very far for the wife. So I'm just highlighting
that's the objective, you want to get far from the wife.
Oh yeah, of course. But the perfect situation will not be there. But let's put it this way. Ideally, I want to tell a lot of people this very, very useful advice. When you shop for your first home, it's about first home. Okay, it's not your dream home. When people get the concept wrong, right? You will not get the perfect product, right? You start with something, and then you improve on it. All right, so that's why we're saying there's such thing called upgrading. First home requirement is different from a permanent home. That's why we call it first home. Otherwise, we would say the home, right? So I'm just saying that this is the concept we want to tell everyone to really start to think about it, because a lot of people, when they start to buy, they say, oh, I want 3-room. In fact, he's not married. He said, I want 3-room because I'm planning to marry. I'm going to have 2 children and blah, blah. You're not going to get that in the first go. Get one for yourself first, right? Then later, let it appreciate. Accumulate it, then you get for your next level when you get married, get a place big enough for 2. Then you get upgrade again, because really these days we can't really have the perfect answer straight away. Yeah.
The argument against renting, is also compelling, because in this day and age, people tend to change jobs. Yes. You might even leave your job and become an entrepreneur, whatever the reason is.
Yes.
Do you think that model still holds, particularly in this day and age? People renting versus buying? Okay,
I'm all for renting, by the way. I'm just saying that, if you look at any developed country where Malaysia is aiming towards to become a developed country in 2025, I'm highlighting this part is that those kind of economy, really, you have more people renting than more people owning, all right? Save for, of course, our neighbor, because they have a different public housing policy compared to us. But I'm just saying to you is that in that case, you have to start consider, if you want to go into the property as an investor, shouldn't this be the right time to go in now before 2025? You still have about 6 years to go, all right? This is the time you start to shop before you lose that power to own entirely. So for the first-time home buyer, I'm saying to you, at least you have a start, all right? Those assets might accumulate. It has proven to be a good asset class, right? I'm not saying it's totally risk-free, but I'm saying that it's been proven as a good asset class. And knowing our Bank Negara in policing the whole thing, being very conservative, shielding us from the last crisis. So I'm thinking this continue to be attractive. So I'm advising that, do it before it's too late, before you have no choice. At this moment, you can still have 2 choice, to buy or to rent, all right? And I understand the mobility issue. Let's put it this way. The more mobility it is, it also means that later it will increase liquidity. Because the more people move, the more people, there will be more transaction. So I'm saying to you, again, mobility is not necessarily a bad thing. I know you might not want to commit to KL for life, right? You might end up working in somewhere else. But again, what you have in KL could be swap, could be sold, could be a platform, a foundation for something better.
All right, Chris, this is not going to be the last time we speak. I'm definitely going to get you in for more. But for now, that was my conversation with Chris Tan, the Managing Partner of Chur Associates. And of course, we're still early in the year of 2019. And my colleague, did a little bit of a snippet in terms of trying to build resolutions for 2019 on her show called Data and Trends. And of course, your resolution might be something as magnificent as quitting smoking, but it can also be economically proven to also buy a house. So these are the steps that you can take in terms of finding out your resolution and, more importantly, sticking to it. That's it from me. I'm Ibrahim Sani. Thank you very much.
There's something satisfying about leaving 2018 behind and starting the year with new goals. Research suggests that only 8% of people stick to and achieve their New Year's resolution, and approximately 80% of resolutions are broken by the second week of February. So, whether it's going to the gym or spending less money, make your resolutions realistic. Firstly, start small. Only make goals that you'll know you can keep. If you want to quit smoking, reduce the amount of cigarettes you smoke in a day. Next up, change one behavior at a time. It takes a lot of time to replace unhealthy behavior. Therefore, don't get overwhelmed if it doesn't happen instantly. Furthermore, it's important to ask for support. Accepting help from those who care about you will strengthen your resilience and the ability to manage your resolution. Lastly, don't beat yourself up because perfection is unattainable. Remember that minor missteps are okay. Don't give up completely just because you ate that brownie. Recover from it and get back on track. I'm Mariam Azmi, and this is Data and Trends.